You are listening to Ask the Answers podcast. Join me, Adele and Anne, as I uncover the knowledge, inspiration, and empowerment the psychic world has to offer. Let's begin. So, welcome to Ask the Answer podcast with the beautiful, the one and only. This is Anne Scholes, who I'm very excited to be talking to today. How are you, Anne?
I'm giddy, Adele. I'm giddy. How long is it since I've seen you? Oh, God.
Oh, too long. Way before COVID.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
It really is.
And just thinking back to when I first started working with you, were you only 19 at the time?
Oh, I think I was early 20s. Yeah, I was 20s. A baby.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, my God, I'm feeling my age now.
Oh, I know. I mean, this is such a lovely opportunity for us to catch up and find out about what's been going on in our lives, what's been happening over these last 6-7 years.
You haven't got long enough, Adele. You haven't got long enough.
Well, I've got 45 minutes.
That's what I mean.
So obviously your psychic work's going really well.
Yes, I have my own holistic centre, which I'm in at the moment. I've been here 10 years. So this is where I deal with all my private clients. And I do so many more things now. I'm an angelic Reiki master teacher. I do past lives. I do everything about auras, chakras, chanting. So I do a lot of teaching from here, plus all the readings and everything else. So it's quite busy. It keeps me busy, keeps me out of mischief.
I mean, when we first met, you already had so much experience anyway. You worked in spiritual churches, you're clairvoyant, a medium, you've done previous TV shows, been featured in magazines. I mean, you already had so much experience and credentials behind you. I mean, so much must have happened since the last time I've seen you as well.
Gosh, I kind of, because I worked all over the UK, I've been down to Taunton, up to Inverness, into Wales and all through the UK, doing theatres and things like that with mediumship. Then I decided to sort of pull back a little bit because I was getting a little bit older and I needed to be in one spot. My family were missing me. And as you know, I worked on the cruise liners. That was an amazing opportunity. Magazines, radios. I used to host one a long time ago with it was called Umberto at Century FM, and that was amazing. That was doing mediumship there and then over the the airways. So really I've been very, very blessed with the opportunities that Spirit have given me. And of course, I've taken them and then gone, what do I do? From paranormal hunting as well, ghost hunting and things like that. So it's been very, very interesting. And you just learn so much about Spirit and about the way they work. And being able to pass that on to people is really nice. Besides, doing a reading and that.
When did you do the cruise liners? Was that before I met you or was that after?
I think that was before. It was 2006 and 2007.
Oh, okay. Nice holidays. A few cocktails.
The phone call, I got a random phone call saying to me, "How much of 2 weeks do you want to do on a cruise liner?" And I said, well, I'll do 2 weeks then. And it was while the World Football Cup was on. And they wanted something for the women. The men would be all glued to the screens. And I went for 2 weeks. I think I did 90 readings. And I did 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 1 day off. And I got off the boat and I was like, oh, that was something else, because they weren't really set up for it. So I ended up in the captain's boardroom doing all these readings. That's right.
I mean,
only the high places. Only the high places. I get to all the best bits. The captain's room, and then on one of the flights, the long haul flights too, when I was coming back from Brazil, because I'd done the transatlantic. I went over the equator later on in the year, and when I came back, we were taken up into the cabin staff where they sleep, because they wanted some readings. So I've been all over the place. I've been in all sorts of strange places doing readings.
Brilliant.
Watch out, there's a Scholes about.
And thinking, yeah, who is this lady? We need to know more. I mean, let's go back to the beginning. I mean, when did you find out that you had this psychic ability? What was it?
So I call myself one of those skeptical people that I'd had odd readings. It wasn't until I was much later, older, 30, when things started happening. My hands started to burn. I was like a bit confused. I was having a bit of a difficult time around work. And I was invited to a meditation circle in the spiritualist church. Well, I hadn't got a clue because I was brought up Catholic, so none of that was around me. So there was nothing to compare to. Nobody talked about it. It was a little bit taboo, you know. Mm-hmm. And so I went and I did this meditation. And when I'd finished, and I can still remember it now, because it was like the feeling of being loved. It was amazing when I walked out. It was like, I don't know what that was, but I'm going back for more. And as I then sat and what I now call has developed, it just got wild. It just went crazy. And then I realized they had been waiting years for me to slow down, and then they could get in and get me to that place where I could open up properly. And when I started to learn about it, because obviously I wanted to know what was happening to me, what did this mean? And when I started to look back, I can go back to when I was 4 years of age, when I used to creep into mum and dad's room as a little child and lie on the edge of the bed, and the lamplight would come in the window and I could see all these fairies dancing on the windowsill. And if I moved suddenly, they'd all go. And it's just like mediumship. If you lose your link, it goes.
Yeah.
But I never thought anything of it. It was just very, very magical for me. And as a little child, I was like, sweet, coming back to have another look. And that went on for quite a while until mum, made me stay in my own bed. Because every time they woke up in the morning, I was in beside them and I'd been looking at these fairies. But it didn't register anything with me at all. I went through life and never even thought about it until I came into this and then started exploring the fairy realm and things like that. And I thought, oh, this takes me back. And then going through, just things happened that were, I just knew stuff. And I remember being at school and I used to look at people and say, you're a Leo, or you're an Aries, or you're a Sagittarius. And they'd look at me and go, yeah, how do you know that? And I go, you can tell, can't? And I'd look at other people and say, can't you tell? And they'd go, no, what are you talking about? But again, it didn't register with me. I know I've had a lot of guidance from my guys before I recognised what it was. But then they must have been jumping up and down upstairs going, we've got her, she's here. It's like...
what were you doing prior to that? What was going on in your life? Because sometimes people say, you find it when you're going through a traumatic time or when you're looking for answers. Where were you in your life at that point?
I had worked very successfully for a huge cosmetic company and I'd got quite a high position. And I'd left, I'd been headhunted. I went to work for somebody else. That didn't last too long because they didn't have the backing. And I went through about 3 or 4 jobs after being so stable that I kind of threw my hands up in the air and thought, what's all this about? I was just completely confused about where my life was going. And one Friday afternoon, I was really, really fed up and I'd got nothing else to move on into. And so when I got home, I'd bought a magazine and I looked at the star sign telephone numbers. So I rang this number and I thought I was waiting for the hi Aries. Today the sun will be shining, And this woman said, hello, can I help you? And I was like, this is a real life person. Can I have your name and date of birth? Exactly like I do now. And she went really quiet and she said to me, Spirit don't want to talk to you through me. Imagine at the end of the phone, I'm going, they want to talk to you directly. Hairs on the back of my neck stood up and I was like, strange. because I didn't know what a medium was at that stage. I didn't know the difference between a medium and psychics and whatever. And she said, you have to meditate, and do you not know somebody? Can you go and sit in somebody's circle? And so I was like, and then she said, you'll go on to be a healer and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, so I put in, the call ended and I thanked her and put the phone down. And then I went up to my mum's and I said, I've just had this really bizarre call. I said, you ring them up and see what they say to you. It might be the same thing. There's a skeptic. Yeah. Yeah. And so she rang them up and she got somebody, I don't know if it's the same woman or not. And they told her all about me and what a hard time I was going through. And, you know, I'd really had to work very hard to where I got and all that. So it was completely different to my reading. Mm-hmm. So that night I'd been invited to what we call an open circle, where lots of mediums go and give messages and things like that. And I was just invited as a friend of a medium. And when I got there, I turned to this lady and I said, why are my hands burning? I said, I can't understand why. My hands are really, really hot. And she said, she just looked at me and she said, and that's why I've come tonight. She said, I wasn't going to come. She said, you need to sit in a circle, you need to develop, and you can heal and you can feel spirit. Mm. And it turned out a lady that I did a lot of business with was the president of the Spiritualist Church that she guided me to. Mm-hmm. So I ended up in her development circle. And it was like a set of dominoes going click, 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 click. Yeah. And then I ended up going and sitting in this circle. And then I just thought, you know what? When I felt that love, I just thought, I'm just going to come every week. And for somebody who doesn't like a routine or never kept a routine, I went every Wednesday night and I developed and developed. And it just came through so fast. And it just took off. That I was kind of a little bit like running after it. I felt like I was doing a degree because I was getting the pictures and I was hearing things and I was going, but what's that? They're saying that's clairvoyant. What does that mean? I had a very patient mentor because I had to understand what was happening to me and how I was channeling before I could actually do readings. And you know, it was all coming through and I was like, So I took my time to sit in a circle for 2 years. And then I think 12 months after that, I got a phone call to go down to London to do an interview for the Psychic Today show. And that's how it all started. It was like really random.
Bit of a whirlwind. What were your friends and your family thinking at that time? Did you tell them what was going on, or were they thinking you're a bit of a crazy lady?
Well, my mum. My mum was a bit like that. Being a staunch Catholic, my dad was going, don't understand any of this. Yeah. And then my friends were like, but I got really good friends from school. So they didn't really separate themselves. They just were, well, what is this? And, you know, well, if it makes you happy, fine. So in that respect, I didn't really lose anybody because they are still, well, mum and dad have gone now, but my friends are still with me. So I've had an amazing set of friends that have kind of, all Catholic, didn't understand it, and then little bit, and I didn't talk about it too much, but when they would ask, I would answer the questions. And now I've got one of them that comes for regular readings. Yeah. I've got another one that I do healing on, you know. Wow. So it's coming back. It. Yeah, it's really nice. So I've been very lucky like that. But I do find that on the dating side, when you tell somebody you're psychic, they run a mile. Yeah. They run a mile. They think that you're reading their mind and, you know, can tell when they're lying and what they've been up to. So they get a bit and then run a mile.
And that must come into a conversation quite quickly because you do ask, you naturally ask somebody, what do you do for a living? What do you do, don't you?
Yes, so, you do. You do.
So is it quite a quick date? Or back then?
Yes, usually. Yeah, one guy told me, you know, I would, you know, go down the way instead of up the way when I died, you know.
Oh dear.
And I just said, you don't understand it. You don't understand the amount of healing that you do when you're in somebody's energy, the amount of comfort, the amount of guidance. You know, we're not telling people what to do. We we are empowering people to
Yes.
find themselves, to find their own truth, and for them to sort of then blossom and move through whatever they're going through. So yeah, the dating thing's a little bit awkward.
And people do get a bit scared by it, don't they? And if they don't understand it, isn't it? It's that whole, witch spells, or going to find out about your secrets, and it's a misunderstanding.
Right. And I go, do you know, I'm not interested. I don't want to read your mind. I've got enough going on in my own mind.
Yeah.
But if you want to come in for a reading, then I will link into your energy, and then I will go into it. But people get a little bit sort of frightened because they don't understand it. And I think until you've actually had a reading, until you've actually had that experience, it's difficult to understand. So I would say, listen, go and have a reading and see what you think. Some people might go, come away and go, well, it didn't mean anything to me. Fine. But a lot of people say, wow, that was so lovely. It was such an experience. And I think that's the thing that people miss, how it relates to them, their life and where they want to go. And being empathetic towards their situation. We deal with people who are going through dreadful divorces, redundancies, relationship breakups. There's a lot of stuff in life that we just get, myself included, got lost, and we just need somebody to point us or show us a direction that's safe to go in.
Yeah, and that's what is nice, is that having that sort of life coach, having that sort of soundboard, having someone to offload. Someone's not going to judge you. There's so many different benefits to having a psychic reading, not just about the future and what you're going to see.
That's right. It's very much about being able to allow them to grow within themselves, to find their voice in a situation where they don't feel they've been listened to, or to help them to heal their heart when it's been broken. So, there's so much more than just sitting down. And, the trouble is you've got the old seaside stereotype of sitting there and my palm with silver and, I'll tell you your future. It's not quite like that.
Maybe let's go into telling the people that are listening a little bit about the difference between clairvoyance and mediumship, and the sort of the different elements of the psychic world and their sort of terminology.
So how the medium works, or the psychic works, is with there's clairvoyance, which is they get pictures and they will see visions and things that they will give to you that you would understand. Clairaudience is where they hear their guides talking and they pass that over to you. Clairsentient is that feeling, the feeling that they have with a situation, so they can describe all of that. There's also the smelling and tasting as well. The clair-knowing, where sometimes you just come out with it and your mouth just has a life of its own. But that's the way the medium or psychic works, yeah.
And would you have all of that? Would one psychic have all of those skills?
Most of them have that, yes. Some people prefer to be more clairvoyant. Some people are just clairaudient. It doesn't matter, because the guides will work with them in order to get the message across to the person they're sitting in front of or speaking to. And then they choose whether they want to use cards, runes, pendulums, nothing, so they then choose their tools that trigger these and connection with the guides. And then, because a psychic tends to look at the energy around somebody and is usually quite in the now, short term. A medium connects to spirit world, so that's people who've passed over. So not all psychics are mediums, but all mediums are psychic.
Right.
Yeah. So it depends on how the person develops. When I came into it, mediumship, I was like, whoa, don't go showing up in Tesco's when I'm at the till. I was like, whoa, don't go standing at the end of my bed, and they very gently stepped forward for me until I got my confidence with it. And now I'm fine, it's fine. But at first I was like, whoa. Don't
And
go.
if someone says with the mediumship, they say, can you speak to my dad who's passed, or can you speak to my mum who's passed, or can you speak to my friend who's passed? Can you connect to that specific person that they're asking about?
So what we say is that spirit world, their loved family members are in their energy, yeah, and all we do is read their energy. So we go into their energy, and what I do is have a look, and then I will see people and then describe them. Sometimes they come through and they say dad or whatever. And so therefore I make the connection. We always say there's no 100% guarantee that we can get hold of exactly who you want at that given time. You have to be quite open with it. You have to be accepting of who comes forward, because sometimes someone can come through and you go, well, I didn't speak to them in this lifetime. Why would they come and speak to me now? Well, they might be bringing the person you really want to speak to through. So you have to just be open and allow the medium to deliver the messages that's needed to be said. Because, in the beginning, I used to get a lot of people, I don't want to speak to him. He was no good when he was here. I went, taking a lot of time to get here, used a lot of energy. Let's see who they're bringing through. And then they would bring the one that they wanted through. So yeah, that's quite funny sometimes.
I'm sure.
What
You've
are you
obviously, don't want to speak to them.
Yeah.
You've obviously honed in on all your skills and your talent over the years, and I'm sure, obviously, like you mentioned there, that the mediumship, the spiritualism came first, and then you've got all the other sort of signs from your early years of the angelic realm. Do you have any sort of strengths now? Is it all quite, on par with one another, or do you tend to go on to more one skill than another one, or it depends on what people ask?
It's very varied. In a day, I can come in and have nothing booked in, and then 10 minutes somebody wants a reading, so we'll do a reading. Another hour later, somebody wants a Reiki, so then I do the Reiki healing. Then somebody wants to talk about courses, or spiritual development, or they're experiencing things that they don't understand, so they come in to speak to somebody so they don't think they're going mad. So we're pulled in all sorts of different ways to guide people. So yeah, I can't say I just do one thing. I do have, and then past lives, doing the past life regression, which I've qualified for. I love that, So every day is different, which is good for me because I like variety. I would be no good just doing the one thing, all day long. It would just, I like the variety.
And is it part of your everyday life, or can you sort of put your hat on when you want to and take it off, or do you wake up and you're always around psychic signs and hearing things all the time? Is it constant?
I have learned to switch off and switch on. So I don't go into it until I get in, and then if I'm doing a reading, I will sit down and then I will link in. Yeah. So I'm very disciplined, because they could let them chatter all day long, but I wouldn't get anything done on the normal side of life. So I don't allow them to come in until somebody's sat in front of me and requesting a reading. There are odd occasions where they will shout and get my attention if they're warning me about something, or if somebody, I've had a few occasions where somebody's been telling me something and they're shouting, liar, liar. And okay. Okay, I get the warning. So yeah, they will warn me.
I mean, it's just unbelievable what psychics experience. Is there anything that stands out to you over the years? I mean, there's probably plenty of stories you can tell us over the years, but is there ones that you would automatically go, oh, I remember that very vividly, or that really stood out to me, or, a highlight of your psychic ability?
There's so much, I mean, I can be stood here and people be walking past, knocking on the window and go, it was a boy, like you said, it's a boy. And then they walk away and I can't remember, because we don't remember what we give.
Yeah, so many.
So, yeah. And then one funny story, because obviously we connect with animals too. I was asked to go and do a group reading in an RSPCA building. And the lady had booked it the sort of a couple of hours before I got there. She rang me and she said, "Is everything all right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'll be there on time." She said, "I'm just a little concerned." I said, "What are you concerned about?" She said, "Well, if you're coming and you're bringing this coach load of dead people," she said, "the animals might go skits. Dogs will be howling and cats will be
Yeah.
sitting, and we've got to keep them all calm." And I said, "Let me reassure you." I said, "This may be good or bad news for
Yeah.
you." I said, "But the spirits are with you. I come to read your spirits.
Yeah.
I don't bring them in a
Yeah.
big bus along with me." I said, "They're already with the people, so I just read them." "Oh, that's all right. I just was worried about the animals." And the animals were absolutely fine.
Oh dear.
That
You
was quite
mentioned
funny.
you mentioned past lives a minute ago. What are the benefits of a past life reading? What would you
So
get from that?
past life, we could have, when we keep hitting the same obstacle, or we might be in a soul group that we feel a bit trapped in, like dysfunctional families and things like that. And by going back into past lives, you can see if you were there with them in another lifetime and that what happened there. And we can do the healing in that lifetime to release them from this lifetime.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like a healing thing. A
Yeah.
lot of people are quite curious as to what they were. I've not had any Cleopatras yet. But, some people who are very, very, I had one guy who was very, very reclusive, very quiet, didn't speak very much. And when we took him back, it turned out he was a monk he was a Benedictine monk in one of the Italian monasteries high up on a mountain. And one of the order that he was in was the one of silence. So
gosh.
it makes sense why he didn't chat and was quite reclusive
Yeah.
in that way. So it can be quite enlightening. Yeah.
So some of the things you have like an affinity to, or some fears that you might have, could come from a past life.
Yeah. I have another lady and she was drowned on the Titanic. She went down on the Titanic, but she never would go in the sea, frightened to death of the sea. So it can reveal parts about you that you relate to another incarnation that needs.
What about you? What past lives have you had? Anything you can share?
Well, I had my sister, and we sold herbs and spices in Egypt. We were business partners, which is really nice. I have lived in Ireland. I was like an events manager in a castle in around about the 13th century. I've lived a lot of lives in Spain, which is a lot of Spain. I have that affinity. That's where you that affinity to a country.
Yeah.
Always had that affinity to Spain. Would have loved to have lived there. But I've had quite a number of past lives of where I've lived there. So that makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last one, I was a Russian ballet dancer.
Oh, check you out.
Nothing like it. No.
I was about to say, have you gone to any ballet classes recently? Any point shoes in the wardrobe?
Pirouettes.
Get your tutu on.
Yeah.
And how do you connect to a past life? Do you just look at somebody and you know? How does that work? Oh, okay.
Hypnosis. I do hypnosis. Through hypnosis, I have done courses where people come and what I do is like a meditation, but we do about 10 different meditations. So we take them back to their last life and then we go back again. We come out of it and then we come back again and we go back. And when I did the very first session, I found that half the group it was blank. It was like, didn't know anything. And the others were talking about floating about on what seemed like another planet. And at first I was like, well, what is that? And then I realized star seeds, the planets they'd come from, and the people that couldn't get any further back was because they were fairly new incarnations. So when they started to have their lives here, so it was like, for me, it was like mind-blowing, to actually witness it in a group situation. It was really, we are from the stars. We really are.
that sort of realization when you are in a group or a circle, as you mentioned there, or something happening, you go, did you see that? Did you feel that? It must be quite
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. I love watching the people now when they suddenly the penny drops or they get something and they go, was that what it was? You know, yeah. Wow. And it's so satisfying because that then they can work on and then improve because it's about self-development, you know. You can be born with it, but I know a lot of people who are born with it, but I've had to go and develop even more. Because you have to invest in yourself when you're doing this. And it's a lot of energy. So you have to channel your energy right. Because
I was going to say that. I was going to say, can you teach anyone? Can anyone be psychic?
I believe everybody is psychic. Everybody's born with it. It is by choice whether you choose to open it up or close it down, follow it or ignore it. So, yeah, everybody has that sixth sense. Everybody. It's just up to the individual.
What would be a telltale sign for somebody if they are having that calling, or if they're having they want to know if they're having psychic experiences, or are they imagining it, or are they being a bit paranoid about something?
One of the things is difficulty in sleeping, not being able to rest the mind, and getting pictures. Or I say close your eyes, and then there's pictures on the back of your eyelids. That's the clairvoyance coming through if you're not opened up. The other ones are being able to just see stuff and go turn to somebody and say, do you understand? Did you see that? And they didn't see it at all. And then they know that what they saw was right, what it felt was right. The other one, there's quite a lot. There's precognitive dreams where you would dream of something, wake up with the feeling of you were actually in that dream. So when you wake up in the morning, maybe 24 to 48 hours, the whole thing is played out in front of you.
Yeah.
So that's another sign. So there's lots of little things that can go on, more than what I've mentioned. But yeah, those are the things that you recognize. Things, feeling like you're leaving people behind. You don't connect with people. So your energy's starting to raise. So that's more of the awakening. So that's happening a lot this day and age.
Yeah.
A lot of people awakening to things.
I was listening to you there now because I was just thinking of my daughter, because she'll often say things and you think, because she often wants me always to go with her to places like, can you come with me to the toilet? Can you come with me to the bedroom? Can you come with me here? And I know children are a bit like that because they don't want to be on their own. But then she has been mentioning her dreams recently, and then something she said the other day about, I think she said something about there was somebody or a monster at the end of the bed. Can you stay with me? And you do hear a lot of children saying about, I know obviously they watch a lot on TV and social media, don't get me wrong, so I know some of it might be of what they've seen just before they've gone to bed, but there are other children or a lot of children that are picking up things that parents might be going, don't be silly, oh, it's just a shadow, or it's just because you watch that on TV. How do you know what's real?
Children are very open. They're really open. And a lot of children can talk about past lives and say things like, you are not my mummy, or I don't live here. They will forget what they've said, but it's their past incarnation that's coming forward. So, because usually everything's wiped out before we come in here, and sometimes it's not all wiped out, so they will remember things from a past life.
Oh, okay.
They're very, very sensitive and open to energies. I mean, I sell loads of crystals, and they're in like toffees. They're filling the pockets with them. The energy of it. I always say when a child starts to talk about something, always just say, well, tell me more, or describe it, or draw it. Because if we go, don't be silly, that's not happened, you're trying to suppress their energy. So we go with the flow, and we just don't put words in their mouth and say, well, tell me more, describe it, show me. How did that make you feel? That kind of thing. And you'll usually find that it might be a weird and wonderful story. You just jot it all down and make a note of it. And then you'll find out later on where it comes in for them. So they're open vessels, our children.
Yeah. My son, he's 10 years old. He's always been really drawn to crystals, even out and about when we go shopping. If there's a crystal, sort of pop-up tent or something that's got some crystals in, he is always drawn to it. Loves it.
So each crystal emanates an energy or a vibration. And a lot of the crystals, most of the crystals are all for healing. And you can usually find that when they're feeling that they need a little bit of extra energy for something, then they'll be drawn to a color of the crystal without them knowing the name. Yeah. And then when you Google that, what the healing benefits of this crystal, you'll find that it's that maybe relating to focus, concentration, or energy, or sleep, and it's the right crystal for them. So when people come in to buy crystals, the thing I always say is just look at all the different colors and go with where you're drawn to. And when you're drawn to them, that will be the right one for you. And so he's being drawn into that particular meaning for that crystal, and they'll have them for so long, and then they'll change. The energy will change, and it's like, I don't need them anymore, so I need something else. So it will grow, but they'll keep the collection going.
Yeah, nice. And I don't think 45 minutes of a podcast is going to be long enough for us. We've got so much to say and so little time. Let's talk a little bit about the angelic realm. What's the difference between mediumship and the angelic realm? Is it the same or is it different?
So mediumship is where we connect to people who've passed over. I separate things because I needed to do that so I know where everything was in my head. The angelic realm is a much higher vibration. This is an energy that has never been to Earth, unlike our loved ones, and the guides. And so it's unconditional love, and every person has a guardian angel, and it's just activating them or getting into their energy, connecting with them. And I do a lot of work connecting people with the guardian angel, and then you can ask them. They're your spiritual best friend, and they're that energy that you can tell them everything that's going on in your life, and they will help. To bring things in and to make life a little bit easier for you. And you just have to ask, basically. You just have to ask. So I've worked with angels for many, many years, and hence the angelic Reiki as well. And it's just a beautiful, it's a complete hug. When you work with angels, it is so beautiful. So I always encourage people to connect with a guardian angel to guide them and just give them some reassurance and try and ask for them not to, make life so difficult or out of sticky situations.
Even to this day, I still try and pull upon that energy when I'm trying to find a car space.
Yeah, you're parking angel. Yeah, absolutely. You're parking angel.
Please let there be a space. Please let there be a space. And often suddenly the space arrives. I'm like,
no, it's right. But you take that one step further and you ask them for something else. I always say we ask for what we need at that time. They're not going to give us the lottery money. If you're not meant to have the lottery money, you're not going to have the lottery money. It's simple as that. But there's so many incidents that I've had. I remember I used to live on a hill, and my car was on the driveway. So I pulled onto the driveway, and I'd opened the door, and I got one leg out, and the handbrake wasn't on properly, and the car started to roll down the drive. And I was like one leg in, one leg out, and I couldn't get to the handbrake.
Oh no!
And in my mind, I was going, Anastasia, that's my guardian angel, Anastasia. And the next thing, there's this guy at the back of the car holding the car up, going, jump in, put the handbrake on. So I got my other leg back in, pulled the handbrake on. Took a big deeper breath because I'd have been in next door's front room as the car carried on, and got out the car immediately, turned round. There was nobody there. There was absolutely... Now, I'd lived on that street for 20 years. I knew all the neighbours. I didn't recognise him. I don't know where he'd come from. I walked up the street, couldn't see him, and I'm thinking he couldn't have moved that fast.
Or you run over him.
I was right under the car, yeah.
Oh dear.
And I just went, thank you, Anastasia, thank you. I mean, it was just literally, I mean, we're talking, you know, a 4-door car here. Well, any car weighs, and he was just literally holding it. And he was only a slim guy. And I'd say he was like 40, 50 years of age. Wasn't young. I was like, what
Wow.
just happened there, you know? So I just thought, thank you. I acknowledge it.
We've got spring and well, we're coming out of spring now. Well, we've still got the April showers, I think, going on into May at this current time. But using some of this energy to our advantage with the summer, you know, months ahead of us, what sort of things could we be doing if people are listening to this right now? How can we work with the psychic world in our everyday life with the energies around?
So we're coming out of winter, and it's been a long, wet winter. There's been a lot of change. You know, people are anxious about their work. They're anxious about other things. And it's been a real drag, you know. So we get to this point in the year where it's time to shed all that negative energy, all that heavy energy. So saging your house with a smudge stick or incense sticks to clear, if people have been poorly, coughs, colds, that kind of thing, to clear the energy, open the windows and get all the negative energy out, get it, you know, cleaned. Crystals around your house, again, to what you're drawn to bring a lighter vibration in. Out for walks, you know, or sitting in the garden with your feet on the grass when it's warm enough to ground yourself. Because so much change this year. We're not finished yet. And we need to keep a reality check. We need to be discerning. We're not being dragged into other people's issues, and to learn to stand back. And is this my issue or is it their issue? Be an observer, because too many people are jumping in on things, and then it's pulling all the energy down. So to keep your energy clean and clear is to be a little bit discerning. Don't get involved in things that are not your thing, your circus, not my monkey, not your circus, as they say. And yes, you can be supportive to people, but not be in it.
Yeah.
And preserve your own energy, because you need your own energy for your own journey. Yeah. And otherwise it will drain you and you won't be able to function right. You know, you can chant on your chakras. You can, like I said, the crystals, you can burn oils. Just stay in your own energy and keep it pure and clean. And don't let negativity eat away at your energy. And especially when we get change, everybody's frightened of change. So it's hard. That's hard enough on its own. So that's what I would say.
Pure and simple, as Hearsay once sang.
Absolutely. Don't like complications. Don't like drama. Although I do get it.
Now, of course, this podcast is Ask the Answer. You are often on the phone line, so people can have readings for you there. How often are you logged in?
It varies from week to week, because obviously I've got this through the day, so it's very difficult for me to log in through the day. But I try to be there in the evenings. Usually from 7 till 9 is the best time you'll find me. Mondays, Wednesdays, alternate Thursdays, because I do have a quiz night to go to on a Thursday.
Oh, but it's so nice catching up with you. I mean, obviously, you talked a lot about the psychic world. I know we're running out of time. The producer's probably going to be thinking, it's only supposed to be 45 minutes. I'm like, well, that's not long enough, I'm afraid. It's just not long enough. But is life good with you and your family?
Yes, I have a new granddaughter. So I have a 6-year-old and a 6-month-old, Teddy and Penelope. My youngest daughter, she finishes her PhD. And so we've had a lot of change. My mum passed away. My daughter bought her house. I moved into a new house. It was all everywhere.
Yeah.
It's been quite, hard going, but life has finally settled down. So I'm just like, and breathe.
Bless you. Oh, well, Anne, it's been so lovely catching up with you today. It's so nice to hear you're still doing an amazing job and spreading that psychic love with the nation, which we always do appreciate. And lovely to catch up with you. You can catch Anne on Ask the Answer, but from me and Anne, thank you very much for listening. We will catch up with you soon.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Ask the Answers podcast. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and save to your library. Remember, there are 100 psychic readers available on our website for readings 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. To triple your credits on your first purchase, visit asktheanswer.com and click on the new customer offer banner.